It took 18 years, one A-list actor walking off the project, a freak injury that nearly ended the whole thing before it started, and a distribution deal that had to be completely restructured, but the Highlander reboot is finally, actually, undeniably happening. Principal photography began on January 28th of this year in the Scottish Highlands, and Henry Cavill wasted no time making the internet pay attention. The first images he posted from set showed him gripping a broadsword with the kind of casual authority that immediately silenced any remaining skeptics. The aesthetic landed somewhere between globe-trotting thriller and gritty period epic, far closer in tone and energy to the John Wick films than anything the Highlander franchise had produced in decades. For anyone who had quietly given up on this project ever actually getting made, those images felt like a wake-up call. The road to that first day of shooting was, by any reasonable measure, an ordeal. The reboot was first announced back in 2008, cycling through early development before landing with director Justin Lin. Then Ryan Reynolds came aboard, generated genuine excitement, and walked away in 2013 when the project stalled again. For years it sat at Lionsgate collecting dust, until Henry Cavill entered the picture in 2021 and injected the kind of committed momentum that finally moved things forward. Even then, the project was not safe. Distribution rights eventually moved to Amazon MGM's United Artists banner amid reported concerns over the film's growing budget, and during pre-production rehearsals, Cavill sustained an injury serious enough to push the entire schedule back again. The fact that cameras are rolling right now genuinely qualifies as a minor miracle, and that long road matters because it says something about how badly the people involved want this film to exist. Projects that nobody believes in do not survive that kind of punishment. To understand what this reboot is carrying on its shoulders, it helps to go back to 1986. The original Highlander arrived with a premise that had no business working. An immortal Scotsman from the 16th century, hiding among ordinary people in modern New York, participating in a centuries-long death game where the only way to kill another immortal is decapitation, and where each kill triggers a mystical energy transfer called the Quickening. It had a B-movie budget and a Queen soundtrack. It should have been a footnote. Instead, it became a cultural touchstone that people are still talking about nearly 4 decades later. The reason it endured had nothing to do with spectacle and everything to do with Christopher Lambert's performance as Connor MacLeod. Lambert has spoken extensively about this in the years since, particularly around the film's 30th anniversary, explaining that he never approached the role as an action part. What drew him in was the existential horror buried inside the fantasy premise. What does it actually do to a person to watch everyone they love grow old and die, over and over across centuries, while they themselves remain frozen in time? Connor gets exiled from his own clan in medieval Scotland because he survives a wound that should have killed him, and nobody can account for it. His community concludes, reasonably by the standards of the era, that possession is the only explanation. He eventually builds a new life in isolation with a woman named Heather, and then he sits beside her and watches her age into old age and slip away while he does not change at all. That unchanging person beside dying loved one is the emotional center around which the entire franchise orbits. Immortality in this world was never a gift. It was always a curse wearing a gift's face. Director Chad Stahelski, who built the John Wick universe and is helming this reboot, has been direct about his framing of Connor in interviews. He described the character as the last person who ever wanted to be in this situation, someone who has spent more than 500 years accumulating both martial knowledge and emotional damage in equal measure, and who carries the weight of every single century. Stahelski has confirmed that the film spans from the Scottish Highlands of the early 16th century all the way through to a near-future version of New York and Hong Kong, signaling a scope that dwarfs the original. He has also confirmed that Queen's music will return, though the approach will involve recontextualizing the songs rather than simply reusing them, which is exactly the right instinct for a film that wants to honor its source material without being imprisoned by it. The cast assembled around Cavill is where the reboot starts to reveal its full ambitions. Cavill as Connor is the obvious cornerstone, a performer who has long wanted a role that demands genuine dramatic depth alongside serious physical commitment, and who is visibly motivated after the strange mishandlings that ended his tenures as Superman and Geralt of Rivia. He told interviewers that anyone who thought they had already seen him do sword work had not seen anything yet, and his history of total physical dedication to every role he has taken makes that worth believing. Russell Crowe steps into the role of Ramirez, the immortal mentor originally brought to life by Sean Connery in the 1986 film. Connery's version of that character was so specific and so charged with pure charisma that replacing him might seem like an impossible task. But Crowe brings something different and equally valid, a weathered, worn-down quality that actually makes deep sense for a being who has been alive for millennia and has seen everything worth seeing. His performances in Gladiator and Master and Commander demonstrated that he knows how to carry the full weight of a man shaped by centuries of war without letting it tip into theater. Dave Bautista takes on the role of the Kurgan, the film's primary antagonist. The original Kurgan, as played by Clancy Brown, worked because the character projected menace even in scenes where no violence occurred, a quality rooted in presence rather than performance. Bautista's work as Raban in Dune showed that he can deliver exactly that kind of quietly unsettling threat. The kind that feels grounded in something real, rather than designed to read as evil from across the room. He has the physical scale the role demands and the acting range to give the character genuine weight. Karen Gillan plays Heather, Connor's first wife, and this casting choice communicates more about the film's intentions than almost anything else announced so far. Heather in the original was affecting but constrained by the era's approach to female characters. Gillan, who is genuinely Scottish and will be using her real accent, is a performer capable of handling both the emotional complexity and the physical demands of the production. Her presence signals that the reboot intends to treat the human relationships at the story's core as substance rather than scenery. Jim Haxo plays Sunda Castagir, described as an African immortal and Connor's only genuine friend across centuries. Castagir appeared briefly in the original but was never given the space to become what the character could be. The dynamic between two immortals who have somehow preserved a real friendship across hundreds of years, while the rules of their world eventually demand that they turn against each other, is one of the most compelling threads the franchise has ever had available to it, and this casting opens it fully. Jeremy Irons enters the story as the leader of a secret order called the Watchers, a group dedicated to monitoring immortals and treating them as an active threat to humanity. This addition fundamentally changes the geometry of the conflict. The original film was structurally clean, Connor versus the Kurgan, one prize at stake. Bringing in a human faction with resources, organization, and ideological purpose introduces a third axis of threat that the franchise's mythology always contained but never fully developed on screen. Irons playing this character means the film carries two distinct types of antagonism simultaneously: the direct physical danger of the Kurgan and the calculated institutional threat of a man who has infrastructure and patience behind him. Drew McIntyre, current WWE champion, has been cast as Angus MacLeod, Connor's brother, and the chieftain who carries out his exile. The person who sentenced Connor to centuries of solitude was his own family. That is the kind of originating wound that defines a character across a lifetime, and in Connor's case, across multiple lifetimes. McIntyre belongs in this world physically, and there is real dramatic weight in the fact that the film is apparently giving that foundational moment the space and the performer it deserves. The confirmed filming locations across Scotland, New York, Hong Kong, and reportedly Italy, paired with a cast that includes Nassim Pedrad as an immortal actively hunting Connor and Max Jang in an undisclosed role, signals that this version of Highlander is building an immortal world far more sprawling and populated than the original ever attempted. The Watcher's subplot alone, with Jeremy Irons at its center and a field operative played by John Jong Seo feeding him intelligence, implies a global surveillance apparatus that has been quietly tracking immortal activity for decades. And Kate Bennett being an archaeologist is not a throwaway detail. Someone in that profession who gets close enough to Connor might start noticing things, artifacts, records, dates that do not add up, and that kind of slow-burn discovery could quietly drive the entire contemporary half of the film. Stahelski has said repeatedly that he and Cavill went deep into what these characters actually mean, not just how they fight. That is the same instinct that made John Wick work. The Baba Yaga mythology gave Wick an aura that walked into every room before he did. Connor MacLeod needs that same gravity, the unspoken weight of 500 years of survival every single scene. The film is targeting a 2027 release, and right now, every signal suggests the people behind it know exactly what they are carrying. This is a franchise that has earned its second chance the hardest possible way, through nearly 2 decades of persistence from the people who believed in it. Every piece of information that has come out so far suggests those people understand exactly what the original got right and exactly what they are being trusted to protect. So here is the question for you. Is Henry Cavill the right person to carry Connor MacLeod into 2027? Or does replacing Christopher Lambert feel like a line that cannot be crossed? And which piece of this casting do you think has the highest ceiling? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if you want to follow every development on this film as it comes out, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a single update.